Right then, we are on the green screen again today, just for change things up a little bit. And also, I couldn't be bothered doing it on the whiteboard because I have to turn my computer around and turn my webcam around and move my mic from here to there and all the rest of it. I couldn't be bothered doing that. So, we are on the green screen, and today we are going to be talking about something that is intriguing me, among other things as well. But, yeah, and this is this idea of the importance of purpose, and purpose in terms of human existence, and in terms of, you know, business purpose as well. We're going to be covering that, and we're going to be covering, you know, things about actually the purpose of us doing reselling and all the rest of it. But not only that, we're going to be covering it on, you know, a larger scale as well, not just necessarily like, you know, reselling purpose or business purpose, or, you know, goals, the purpose in having goals and stuff like that. But we're also going to be covering it on a more expansive, in a more expansive way as well. So I'll wait for a few people to jump in the old chat. I'll say a few hellos and stuff. We've got Andrea in the chat. Hi there, Andrea. We've got Death by Glamour. We've got have a day off today. Have a day off today, so I'm listing. Oh, right. I thought you were saying you, like, to me, you have a day off today. I was like, what? I don't want a day off. No, okay, I get it. Okay, you're on a day off from your full-time job or something. So you're listing, right? I get it. Okay, I get it. We've got Tom in the chat. Oh, it's nice to see Tom in there. I don't know whether Tom's been in the last few weeks. Who else have we got in there? Best of luck, Sean. You'll kill it. Oh yeah, Sean said he's left his full-time job. Is it? I think he said at the top. So he's full-time self-employed or something. So yeah, just about going for it really. It's just about well, you know the drill better than better than all of us. Well, not better than all of us, but just the same as all of us anyway. You know, it's just about working and doing things really. So yeah, who else is in here? We've got Alan in there. Good afternoon, ads and or resellers. Last of the summer wine ads, flat cap, yeah. Well, it's funny, isn't it? Because I was thinking I don't wear my hats as much. Well, I don't know whether I wear my hats as much on videos or not. Maybe I don't wear my hats as much. But they kind of they used to be kind of like part of my overall channel, you know, in terms of on my thumbnails and all the rest of it. So I kind of think, well, I kind of should wear them, you know, because that's kind of part of the, I suppose it's part of the whole channel, not the channel ethos, like the branding, I suppose, and all the rest of it. So yeah, I thought I should really wear them more often. George says, afternoon all, just finished a 3-hour photo session. My God, that must, so 3 hours, taking into account you probably do more photos than myself because you've got bigger items, you've got more complex items. That must be 100 to 150 listings-ish, like 150 items, because I'm taking into account, it took me an hour and a half to do 100 photos of that 100 listings when I was doing 100 listings, but they were very easy items. They were like, you know, quite a few of them were new and sealed. Some of them were ceramics, but generally I only do like 4 or 5 photos of ceramics because I do like one of the front, one of the back, one with a measurement on, and then maybe 2 or 3 if necessary for if there's any flaws in the item. So, you know, maybe 5 or 6. But I know that you do a lot of bigger, bulkier stuff, so you probably do the full 10 or 12 photos. So taking into account that, it probably was 100, 150 items. But whatever it is, it's bloody crazy. You know, it's a good amount. You know, it's a crazy amount of work. So yeah, we're going to talk, as I say, a little bit about the importance of purpose. And about, we'll start off with importance in reselling. We'll start off on a ground level, and then we'll work our way up to a somewhat more philosophical level that might, I don't know, that is more, not existential, like more whole in terms of like the entirety of life, let's say. So we'll start off with reselling purpose. So we all need, I feel like as humans, we all need a purpose, and a lot of people agree with me on that. We all kind of need to feel as if in our short life on the planet, we are fulfilling a need that we genuinely believe will not only help ourselves in terms of our own happiness, but will also, in some regard, help others or help the progression of humanity, or help our children, or whatever it may be, or provide value to the world, etc. I really do believe that a lot of people now the kind of extent to how much purpose you need is really dependent on you know, who you are, really. You know, some people, the base purpose of their job and their life in terms of their family and their friends, and, you know, kind of just talking to them and being around them and being around their work and doing their work to the best ability they can. To some people, that extent of purpose is brilliant, and that extent of purpose is completely fine, and that in itself is absolutely 100% more than enough, you know, in terms of a human life. That's exactly what essentially is a well-rounded human life. You know, you enjoy your job, you know, you have family, you have friends, you enjoy spending time with them, you have a good little bit of time off, etc. Now, you know, with reselling, let's say, you know, we all need a genuine purpose. So what I mean by a genuine purpose is something that you love, that you know you love. Like, you know that this purpose is for you. Like, this is the thing that makes you tick, you know. And for a lot of us, reselling is just that. You know, reselling on items on eBay, reselling items on Amazon, you know, going to the charity shops, the car boots, the auctions, you know, getting items, flipping them on eBay, knowing that at the receiving end of that there's going to be a customer who really likes the item, or maybe they, you know, they give it to a child, and you know, their child, you know, is really thrilled with that item. And that sense of purpose, you know, is kind of what we're after as genuine resellers, as people who genuinely love to do reselling, right? As our purpose. Just as, you know, someone who genuinely loves to do golf, they're not necessarily hell-bent on getting first place in every tournament. Obviously, it's something they may love to get first place in every tournament, but their genuine purpose is just to be around golf, to do golf, because they love it so much. They may have goals and stuff set out in place, but they know that just doing golf is enough. You know, just being around that is genuinely enough for them. So it's important to have you know, a genuine purpose in life that we can all kind of benefit from, in terms of both inside ourselves and our internal happiness, and then obviously extending that out to other people with regards to the purpose that we have. And a lack of genuine purpose is where depression can start to come in. So, you know, if we say we want to do something and we're not 100% genuine about it, and we force ourselves to do it, we really try to do it, and, you know, we kind of think it might be what we want, but we're not 100% sure, and, you know, we're trying to do it and we're not gelling with it, that's when we can start to get more depressed. We can start to think, well, my life doesn't have meaning in this regard, or this isn't for me, and I really don't feel happy here or comfortable here. And I think it's about recognizing, or trying to recognize within your life, as hard as it can be, what your kind of genuine purpose is, what the thing is that makes you tick, and that you'd be happy to do for your entire life, and you can embrace it fully. Like for me, I've often talked about this. Reselling, you know, I found in the last 6 to 12 months, it's not it's not necessarily not my true purpose. I love reselling, and it's a part of my purpose, but it's not my full purpose. My full purpose, now I understand, is more to help people, make people happy, you know, kind of in any way I can do that, in being myself, in, you know, communicating what I've learned in my life and stuff like that. That's my true purpose, because I feel making people happy is not, just like reselling, I suppose. Reselling isn't limited. Reselling is limitless. You know, you can build reselling businesses to the moon and everything. You can employ staff. You can build it out and build it out. And if that's your complete, genuine, true purpose, you will love to do that, and you will have so much energy and abundance of energy to do that, and to really grow it to extreme heights. And just like, you know, I can't. If let's say my true purpose would be to make people happy, that's limitless. I don't think I could ever make everyone happy. And it's kind of an interesting idea, happiness, because we can't have happiness without, there being sad people in the world, or else we wouldn't know what happiness is. Like I talked about last week, or not last week, maybe the week before, or was it last week? Maybe it was last week, about polar thinking and about not being able to have one thing without the other. Having, not necessarily making people happy all the time, but actually making them realize that even in the sad times, they can still have a connection to some sort of level of happiness, even when they are sad. Like, for example, this morning, this is a great example, my Wi-Fi extender that I have hooked up to here, which, obviously allows me to do Thursday talks, because without the Wi-Fi extender, I couldn't do it. The Wi-Fi is just absolutely terrible up here for whatever reason. So I had that, and of course I thought, oh no, what's going on here? I can't get my Wi-Fi extender working. What am I gonna do, etc. So I do all I can do, and in the meanwhile, I'm just thinking, well, I can just chill, because I know I'm gonna get this sorted. I know, I have faith in myself that I'm gonna get this sorted at some point. So I just chilled a little bit. And, I didn't chill in the sense that I just sat down and did nothing. I meant I chilled in the sense of, right, I know I can get this sorted, so I'm just going to, chill while I'm getting it sorted, etc. So I did that, and then I got it sorted. And although that would be a very stressful situation, well, not a stressful situation, but it would be an annoying situation for a lot of people, even though it was an annoying situation, I removed the annoyance by realizing that I have faith in myself to sort the problem in the future. So, it's kind of like even in that negativity, even in negativity, which we all have to experience, life is this flow of positive and negative, and we all have to experience this. And again, I talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the transcendence of positive and negative, and it comes into this a little bit as well. But we have, if we can recognize that this is this kind of up and down flow, and then we can obviously, we know we have to be negative at certain points, or not necessarily have to, but we are going to be negative at certain points. We can then obviously understand this flow, and then that helps us remain in some sort of neutral. It's kind of like a car remains in neutral, where, through all these ups and downs, like, if we can remain in that neutral state, or a similar kind of state to that, then we understand that it doesn't really matter if things go wrong or whatever, because things are going to return to, the ups and the downs. It's always going to return to that. So this idea is very, very interesting, of genuine purpose, of, what is your genuine purpose? Not something you want to do, but something that you kind of are, that you can be in a state of being of in that thing, whatever it be. Like I mentioned, golf, reselling, being a personal trainer, because I'm looking at my little gym bag there, being a computer expert. Whatever this genuine purpose is, that you, can embrace it fully. That you can embrace it fully. And it's not about the attention of, oh, how, I'm going to beat everyone in the world at this thing. It's not anything about that. It's more about the actual activity itself. Because when we start to think like, oh, well, I'm going to beat everyone in the world at this activity, we're then living far too much in the ego. So that can then kind of slightly distort your genuineness about that activity. Whereas if you do something that you're truly genuine about, you don't necessarily feel the need to boast about it at all. You just get on and do it. Now, of course, this is all determined on how big of an ego you are, and of course we can't get rid of the ego. So, like for me, I'm quite a big ego, so I understand that, so I just have to go with it. Like, if I do an amazing thing in reselling, I kind of feel complied, not complied, what's the word? Feel like, there's a good word for it, but I feel, obliged. I feel obliged to kind of get it out there into the world because of the part of me that has that ego. But genuinely, that's what I love to do. You know, genuinely, I love doing those 100 listings. But I felt obliged to do a video on it because of my ego. Because I think, oh, well, wouldn't it be good to get this out in the world and show, you know, show people what I've done? Again, that's then living in the ego. So you've got to, it's about this balance of thinking, well, do I genuinely love this? And even if I do genuinely love this, you know, I can still be an ego. I can still, you know, kind of shout about it and stuff. But it doesn't necessarily mean you know, you should do that all the time. And if you do that all the time, then it might just be that you're doing it because you want to shout about it and say how good you are at just any random particular thing. So it could really be anything that you do, and it's just that you are kind of being influenced, or maybe even go so far to say is poisoned by your ego in just trying to shout about whatever you're doing, you know. So it's about finding that thing that you're genuine about, that you just do, and that you just are doing, you know, that you just be with it, you know, you just be with it, and you just flow with it, basically. And it's very interesting because obviously purpose in itself is a human concept. It doesn't necessarily exist even. It's just something that, because of the ego, we feel as if we need purpose, you know. We don't actually need purpose. I mean, what it boils down to really is that we don't need purpose. We falsify ourselves into believing that we need purpose because of, you know, not being able to get rid of the ego. If we were able to get rid of the ego, we wouldn't need purpose. We'd just go around doing what we naturally do, i.e. sleeping, eating, having sex, etc. You know, just the natural things that we do, you know, if we were animals, let's say. But because we can't get rid of the ego, we then have to go into the kind of idea of purpose. And if we didn't do that, then we would be very depressed because of our intelligence as a more intelligent creature on the planet. But it is very interesting that purpose doesn't really exist. It's only a concept, but we seem to all need it, you know. And even if you get to the point of understanding that purpose is a concept, you still need it. Because I understand purpose is a concept, but it's not even really an understanding, it's more of a realization, because you can understand it without realizing it. And then once you realize it, you realize that your understanding of it was actually flawed in itself, because it wasn't real understanding. It was more realization when you realize it. But that's getting a bit complex, and you'll only realize that when you realize it, you know. It's quite funny, because what I'm talking about is you'll only realize realization when you realize all the concepts of human existence. So yeah, it's quite funny. But and then to someone else watching this who doesn't have a clue what I'm talking about, they're like, what the hell is it? This guy is crazy. But actually, I'm not crazy. I've just gone somewhat too far into the realm of non-concepts, which the realm of non-concepts is also a concept. So therefore, the realm of non-concepts, you're still living in a concept if you occupy the realm of non-concepts. So you have to actually go beyond the realm of no concepts, which is actually like essentially a no self, to be able to really realize some sense of understanding. And then the understanding that you'll realize is the understanding of non-understanding, which is literally nothing. So it's basically, yeah, nothing. Like purpose, there is no the importance of purpose is nothing. That's what I'm saying. The importance of purpose is nothing, but we all feel falsified that we need purpose, so we have to give ourselves purpose, and that means that the importance of purpose is important after all, even though behind the curtain, the importance of purpose is nothing, right? So, yeah, it's interesting. But basically what I'm saying is be genuine in what you do, you know, because we're gonna have to have a purpose. So be genuine in what you do. If your purpose is nothing, then do nothing. Try and find a way of doing nothing. If your purpose is to make people happy, try and find a way to make people happy. If your purpose is reselling, be a reseller. If your purpose is golfing, be a golfer. If your purpose is swimming, be a swimmer. If your purpose is doing computer stuff, be a computer expert or whatever, you know. If your purpose is doing lighting for a TV show, do lighting for a TV show. That's what I'm trying to say, you know. You know, but you're not going to get out of the trap of of purpose or anything really. So you're gonna have to go with it. You're gonna have to learn to just flow with it and think, right, well, I know that I don't necessarily need purpose, but I feel like I need purpose because I'm living as an ego, so I've got to have purpose. So let's find what my genuine purpose is. And for me, because I've got out of all this kind of, all this stuff here, all these concepts and stuff, for me, my genuine purpose is letting other people know that, these concepts and stuff, and then that gives me fulfillment because I know that that's my truth necessarily, opposed to someone else's truth, which will be different, but anyway, I will see. Oh crikey, you have just taken the chat to an even deeper level. Andrea Hills: the only purpose we have in this life is love, but I believe we are all here to learn something in order for our souls to grow. That's very interesting, Andrea. Yeah, love is an interesting one, but you see, I've been debating. I've been kind of pondering on love the last couple of days, because I've been thinking, what is love? Because in itself, I didn't realise that love was a concept until about yesterday, when I realised that love in itself is a human concept, but it's similar to the ego because we can't get rid of love. So therefore, it becomes something that is in a state of being. So love exists anyway, regardless of whether you want to conceptualize it. It is there as a feeling, just like emotion is there. And again, similarly with any emotion, emotion is like the ego as well, because when you try and get rid of the ego only gets overinflated. And when you try and understand and define or even get rid of emotion gets inflated. You see, have you ever tried to understand what emotion is? Because if you start to try and understand what emotion is, you start to get angry. And in doing so, you're blinded by the emotion that you're trying to understand. You see, it's so interesting. Like, you literally can't get out the trap of trying to define what emotion is. So the only possible way of getting out of it is just to experience what emotion is and experience what the ego is and just go with it. There's literally no way of getting out the trap. You're always in the trap. It's like, it's the most incredible thing. Like, but when you understand about the whole trap, that you can't get out of it, it then doesn't become a trap anymore. It then becomes something that works in your favor because you learn to go with it. You're like, well, I can't understand this. I can't define it. So what am I gonna do? Well, I'll have to let go and just live. So it's interesting. But love is very interesting to me because I don't know whether I've ever experienced love. I know I've experienced lust. I know I've experienced... But again, that's another concept, actually. So, yeah, I'd have to look into that because I've not looked into lust too much. But I wonder whether it's actually just a string of various different characteristics or various different... I don't know. It's just this... Maybe love is this kind of bondage between... Not bondage in that way. Bondage between various different characteristics or traits that then connect two people together, and then it makes them believe that they're in love when actually it's just because they have these set traits or feelings for one another, or set kind of... I wrote a quote on this because I'm not explaining it very well. Let's see my quote. I don't know where it is because I've got too many quotes. Oh no. Now, this is what all my pondering sent me to when I was talking about love. I was thinking about love yesterday. It sent me to, because I thought to myself, well, is love just a connection that's formed between, as I say, these characteristics between two people? And actually, I was thinking to myself, is actually love a falsified emotion? Do we label love actually love when it's not even love? It's just a connection between two people that is kind of material, but that feels more than that. But after all that and all that kind of a little bit of negativity on it, a little bit of positivity on it, I came to this conclusion that is love as simple as a look and a smile? And I think that's the base thing, really. Love is a look and a smile. Like, when you look at... And I've done this, like, it doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter whether it's a romantic interest or whether it's just, a friendship or a family member or whatever. But when they say something, and that resonates with you or whatever. Just that person. And it might not even be that they say something. It might be that that person is just being who they are in that moment. And you look over and you look and you can't help it, but you look over and you just smirk. You just like, not really smirk, just like a little smile. And I'm sure if anyone's experienced it, they'll know what I mean. And I think that's it. That's it. I don't think we need to define it any more than that. I think that is it. That is love. Like, it doesn't matter who it's with. It doesn't matter what. That's as simple as it needs to be. It doesn't need to be all this, well, does love exist, or how does love manifest itself? What type of concept is love? You see, it doesn't need to be all that. It simply needs to be what actually is happening when you feel love for someone, and that is a lot of the time what happens. You give them a little look, you glance over kind of thing, and you do a little side smile at the side of your face, maybe this side or that side. You do a little smile as if to say, I love all of who you are. I love everything about you. I love you just being there. I love you just standing there, just doing nothing. That's what it is. Because that is the defining character of how love can manifest itself in a physical form in terms of a smile and a look, you see. So it's kind of how love as an emotion manifests itself physically. So on that thought, you have to think that, it doesn't matter. None of this defining it matters. It's all about experiencing it. It's all about, it doesn't matter whether it exists or whether it doesn't. In that moment, it does exist. In that single moment, it does exist because it's shown in a physical manifestation of itself. Even if itself, in terms of your mind, doesn't even exist in there, it's shown physically in that moment, so it at least exists in that moment. And then if we can think, well, if it exists in that moment, it should be apparent that it does exist beyond that moment, in terms of in the past or in the future. Of course, the past and the future are concepts in themselves, so we won't go into that, because that's a whole other, story. But, even if you were to say, right, okay, we're going to live in the idea that the past and future are real, or completely real in terms of what they are. So we'll say, right, we're going to say that that's completely real. There is a future. There has been a complete past. And then we're going to say, right, yeah, I understand that that's real. I understand that love's real. But anyway, oh, God, I tell you, it gets me going, doesn't it, this? Bloody hell. But I love theorizing. I love it. I just love it. It does. I love it. I just love I love trying to understand life because I can never understand life. That's what it is. I love trying to understand life because I'll never be able to understand it. And that means that I'll always be happy because I need something to chase. I've always needed something to chase, whether it's another person in terms of lusting after them or in love with them or whatever, whether it's something like a goal in terms of my reselling business or whatever. I always need something to chase. And the goal of trying to define life is an unobtainable goal. I really do believe that it is impossible to define life because and the only way you could define life is if someone were to die and they were to come back and they were to say to you, oh right, look, this is what death is, and now we know what death is completely, we can then define life in terms of death, and then we know what life is completely. So that would be the way that we would define life. But since that's probably never going to happen, it's probably an impossible theory to be impossible thing to ever define life. So therefore, if we can't define life, it means it's impossible to chase. Impossible to capture. Therefore, if it's impossible to capture, it means that I can always be happy because I've got something to chase forever. And then I can die happy, knowing that I'm like, I may not have ever captured it, but I've at least kind of done something that I love that makes me happy. It is interesting. You just described Jesus. Oh yeah, actually I did. What you got in the mug ads? Share please. I've just got tea, peppermint. I won't be, one sec, I'm just flicking onto me. I won't be able to show it because, yeah, look, I can't show it. It's a Doctor Who one though, time and relative dimension in space. Probably Doctor Who was what started me off on all philosophy and stuff, but you know, not in terms of this chat. I know I didn't get started on it with that, but I mean, like, in terms of philosophizing about the universe and stuff, you know, when I was younger or as I was growing up, I suppose. But, you know, it's funny because you don't actually, you know, it's weird because now I understand that anxiety is a concept. I understand that anxiety is essentially a snarl in which, you know, an animal... you know, like if you go up to an animal that's particularly scared, and you're a very big person going up to that animal, they'll do something called a snarl, where they obviously like grit their teeth, and they're trying to act big because they want you to go away. They're scared inside, and I often believe that anxiety is just that. The anxiety is scared that you're going to overpower it, so then it snarls at you in the form of, you know, enhanced experience, enhanced negative experience with anxiety. And you know, I understand the concept of anxiety, I understand the physicality of anxiety, and I understand everything about that as someone who can philosophize, but I still can't get rid of my own anxiety. And that's interesting. That makes me interested, because I'm like, well, hang on a minute, I can't ever view my own anxiety anyway. I can't really ever see myself in that light. So in order to actually get over some level of anxiety, I have to see my anxiety through the eyes of someone else to be able to really see what's going on. So maybe this idea that I understand my anxiety is actually a falsified version of that, and therefore, you know, when I truly understand my anxiety, I won't need to understand it, because on the point of realization of understanding of my anxiety, it will dissipate, because there's no need for it to exist anymore, because I've got to a point of realization with it and a point of enlightenment with it, you know. But it's very interesting. Are those boxes of love behind you? No, those boxes are not full of love, but... well, I don't know what they're full of, but actually I don't know. I don't know what these boxes are. These boxes could be full of anything, you know. I just got this off, was it Pixabay? I think it's Pixabay. You know, the free image kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know what the... oh, there you go. There's like glass on them, so I'm guessing it's glassware. Look at that. Glass... umbrella. Umbrella and glass. Umbrella. Right, I will look up the chat, because I know I've been avoiding people. Ads, that's the reason I love Doctor Who as well. Why? Because what? Because of philosophy or what? I don't know. I don't know what I said. Did I say I love Doctor Who because of philosophizing? I love Doctor Who because Doctor Who, it provides me with a male role model in which to aspire to. That's why I can't ever really slow down, because I always compare myself unfavorably to the Doctor. And I say I must do better. I must get up to the standard of being the Doctor. And if, you know, because the reason I do that is because I know, again, it's something that I can't obtain. I can't ever get to the standard of a Time Lord. So that then gives me the satisfaction that actually I can just keep on going and keep bettering myself for my entire life, because you know I'll never reach my goal of doing that, but I'll get myself into a position that I'm very, very happy with in the end. But you see, the problem of attaining something that you can't obtain is that it's a falsified trap, because you constantly get yourself into this circle of basically going round and round and round. But you have to be able to get yourself out of that circle, because if you're trying to attain something you know you can never attain, you're not on the right path. You're not on the right path. You need to get yourself into a position that you already have happiness in yourself. You already have everything you need in yourself before going off on a circle like that. You know, what happened for me is I did it the wrong way around. I went off on a circle thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to do amazing things. I'm going to do this and that and the other. And I'm going to set myself up to have limitless goals and have limitless, you know, things that I'm going to achieve. But then I went through the realization of, oh, right, no, because what I'm doing is I'm actually enhancing my own self-loathing, and I'm enhancing my own kind of, you know, just kind of self-doubt and stuff, because I've set myself up with such limitless goals, and I am only an imperfect human at the end of the day. Now, I say imperfect human, but what I really mean is a perfectly imperfect human, because what I believe is that the universe is full of perfectly imperfect things. So you look at a tree, you see, and the branches go off in all weird, crazy directions. And, you know, in one way it's imperfect, but in another way it looks like suitably perfect as well. So, you know, I would say that I'm a perfectly imperfect human, you know? And that's what we kind of all are. You know, we're perfect, but we're also imperfect at the same time. And it's a nice little balance. It's a nice little flow. But what was I talking about anyway? So, yeah, so I went through this realization of then realizing not long ago, probably about 2-3 months ago, that, oh, right, the inner happiness inside myself is enough. So now what I can do is I can give my all with this limitless, with this kind of attainment of limitless goals, you know, things that I want to achieve. I can give my all with it because actually secretly in the back office, I know that I've already attained all these things. I've already achieved all the things I need to achieve in just the very act of being myself and being alive. And once you understand that, you then start to get very, very motivated because you're like, oh, right, so I don't need to actually do anything. So I can just walk around and I'm marvelous. You know, I'm brilliant. I'm perfectly fine. And then you really start to get motivated in this attainment of limitless, you know, limitless things that you want to attain. And that's why recently, you know, you've seen on Instagram that I've been very, very positive, very, very happy, very focused, and you know, being able to do a lot of steps and stuff, and being able to get up early, and being able to, you know, do all these things that I thought 3 or 4 months ago I couldn't do. But then, you know, you have that realization that you, just in the very essence of being, you are more than enough for yourself and more than enough for everyone around you. Then you think, right, I get it now. And then you think, right, well, you know what? What's stopping me waking up at 6 a.m. every day? What's stopping me, you know, doing this, doing that? What's stopping me doing all these different things? Because you get into a realization of limitlessness in your own mind, and then you see the connection. You see the connection now. I bet you've got it. You see, before that, I was in a state of limited mindset, limitless goals. Now I'm in a state of mindset of limitless mindset, limitless goals. The two match up, and then you become a bundle of energy, you see. Whatever you want to call it, in whatever concept or whatever religion you want to go down, that's fine. You know, I don't personally have a religion. I don't really subscribe to any concept or anything like that. I tried to at first. I was like, right, I know what I need to do. I need to subscribe to no concepts whatsoever. And in doing so, you end up subscribing to loads of different concepts, and then you end up subscribing to the concept of non-concepts, like I talked about. And then you realize, but then once you realize that the idea of the non-concept. The idea of the non-concept is in itself a concept, you then are completely free, and then you think, oh, well, I get it, you know, I get it. But it's long, it's hard, it's horrible, it's a realization process, it is instantaneous, but also it's long. It's instantaneous and long at the same time, so the intellectual battle with it is long, of looking through concepts and looking into different religions and spirituality and stuff. That's very long, but then once you get to it, it's an instantaneous thing when you're there. Everything just drops, like everyone says, you know, like all these great philosophers, all these great spiritual leaders, everything just drops, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's good, you know. And that's why people don't talk about spirituality if they are enlightened, or if they are I'm not saying I'm enlightened, by the way, because that's a concept, but when people are enlightened, or when people are have reached beyond enlightenment, they don't talk about enlightenment because they understand in themselves that enlightenment is a human concept, and living in the realm of enlightenment in terms of in terms of the human concept of enlightenment isn't in fact enlightenment, and therefore they just go back to being a normal ego and just do what they normally do and live normally. You see, that's kind of the full circle. That's why I always say a spiritual journey is like tightening a rope around your own neck, because there isn't any journey. You're there now. You're bloody there now. You know, you don't need to do anything, but you think you need to do something, you know, and that's the thing really. But
Oh, I tell you, it's hard. It's hard doing this. It's hard. My God, brilliant chat ad. Something dear to my heart. Is it really purpose? I didn't know that. Andrew says, anxiety is basically our fight or flight instinct going into overdrive. Yes, it is. You know, I mean, I don't really try and define it in just scientific terms. I like to define it in every terminology I can possibly do. So I like to have a very open mind with it. So I think, right, what is anxiety in terms of spirituality? What is anxiety in terms of different religions? What is anxiety in terms of scientific research? Now, science is a very interesting one because it is a concept. Science in itself is a concept, but it is a concept that can be defined, it can be measured. Now, of course, scientists have only explored about 4 or 5% of the universe so far, so they can't necessarily define everything in 100% complete accurate light, but from what they have defined, we know we have to take as fact. So if you are a spiritual person, if you are a mystic, if you are someone who believes in a certain religion, you have to use science as, and I'm going to quote Brian Cox here actually, but you have to use science as a framework around your, around your religion, around your spirituality. Because science, yes, it is a human concept, but it is something that is, it's defined, it's real, it's proven. A lot of the things in science are proven. So you have to look at it as such. So I do subscribe to science as a concept. However, I do still only use it as a framework to kind of look around all the different concepts that I can see. So I look at different religions, I look at spirituality, I look at science, and then I draw my own personal conclusion in my own personal philosophy out of all those different things. And that's the best way to do it, really, because you need to attain some level of happiness inside yourself, and defining your own personal philosophy is the best way to do that. If you don't define your own personal philosophy and you subscribe to the concepts of human existence in, just one concept, then you're gonna feel this sense of, I'm someone else's, not necessarily I'm someone else's pet, but I'm kind of a slave to someone else, or I'm a slave to X thing, and you don't want to feel like that. You want to feel like a free individual. I mean, I don't know what you want, but I certainly want that, and I would assume everyone would want that they would want to feel like a free individual and not, like I don't, a bit of a too harsh analogy, but I was going to say like a chicken in a battery farm, but it's a bit too harsh that. But because it's not really true, but it's more of a misconception. That again, misconception. It's funny, but but opposed to someone who isn't free, let's say, of the body and mind. So it's very interesting, but define your own philosophy. That's what I would say. But there's no point in listening to me because I haven't a clue what I'm talking about. I don't have any knowledge whatsoever in terms of the academic kind. I've never done a degree in terms of philosophy or anything like that. Never will do a degree in philosophy unless I get an honorary degree, because I don't, I'd rather have an honorary degree than go through the process of getting a degree for something that I don't need to get a degree in, because I understand that philosophy in itself, a good philosopher understands that they actually don't need to attain anything in this life, therefore they don't need to attain a degree. Now, the only reason you would attain a degree for something like philosophy is that if you really were genuine in your purpose, again, getting back to purpose, you were genuine in your purpose to attain a degree in philosophy, and I'm not genuine in that because I don't want to do a degree. I'd love to be a philosopher, I'd love to be a spiritual leader or public speaker or whatever, but I genuinely, part of my purpose is not to do a degree in philosophy. So I will, if I want to be a philosopher, I will be a philosopher without getting a degree. And if people want to listen to me, even one person, then that's brilliant. If no one wants to listen to me, then that's fine, because me just being here is fine. I don't need anyone else to listen to me. It's like, if you want to listen to me, great, but what I would say is, if you do listen to me, please do draw your own conclusions and don't listen to what I have to say as given. It's not at all that. It's just conclusions that I've drawn from science, spirituality, my own experiences in spirituality and science as well, and you know, just like my own experiences in life as well. You know, it's an interesting thing, life, and I just can't wait to experience more and more and more, really, and try and see what this has to offer. Not necessarily what this has to offer in terms of how much work I can put in and how much I can do and all that, but more just like I want to be, and I want to see how much this has to offer me in terms of just me being as a person, you know, as a person on a planet kind of thing. But very, very interesting, and I know that a lot of people will be like, oh my god, I can't handle this, this is too much. But what did I say at the start of the video? I said we're then going to start getting into more expansive territory in terms of philosophy of purpose. Kind of went off on one a little bit, I have to admit. But, you know, that's kind of, you know, I've learned like so much for the last maybe 12 months or so. And I really want to get it out, you know, I really want to talk about it, because it's so much, so invigorating, so passion, so much, there's so much beauty in it, you know, there's so much beauty in it, and I tell you, but you only listen to that if you don't have faith in yourself. If you have faith in yourself, then other people's opinions get considered, of course, but they don't have to replace your own. Yeah, people worry about money. What's people saying in the chat? I don't know. The concept of God fakes up the gaps in knowledge that science has to fill yet. Neil, the concept of God takes up the gaps in knowledge. I would have said, oh, I know why he's put takes up, right? I think I would have said, as that quote, you know, just someone who does quotes, I would have done it as the concept of God fills up the gaps in knowledge that science has yet to fill. But I wouldn't have put fill at the end. I see why he's done it now that way, but it's a bit takes up. But this is the problem with quotes. There's not enough words sometimes, because you can't use, well, you can, but I don't like using the same word twice in a quote if I can avoid it. I mean, some words you have to use twice in a quote. It's just kind of, like, I don't mind little words, you know, like bridging words or connective words or whatever you call them, like and or to and stuff, unless you're using them like crazy amount. But, you know, it just takes up. It just doesn't, anyway, it doesn't feel good to me. But, yeah, the quote, I understand. That's a good quote, actually. But it's just that little bit of grammar or a little bit of way you said it, it just off a bit. But yeah, I love Neil deGrasse Tyson anyway. I think he's brilliant. What is the point in worrying, Sean? Worrying doesn't make you get oh, we could do a bloody lecture on worrying, I tell you, bloody hell. But I'm too good at worrying, so I shouldn't really be the one to do that lecture. Right, 12 new listings and relist done. Entertain me, Adder? You said Adder then? Right, let me have a look up, chat. If you got faith in yourself, it's very difficult for anyone or anything else to knock you down. Yeah, it is. It's what I've found the last few weeks is it's incredibly hard for even any experience. Like, now I understand love as a concept. It's actually easy to get round love. Like, it doesn't mean I'll never get my heart broken or anything. But once you understand that emotion and love are a concept, you can start to use them in their most purest form. And when you use them in their most purest form, you don't have to feel as much emotion or as much like kind of, you know, hurt, or even like, you know, you don't have to feel all this burden of them. You know, when you understand emotion and love in the purest form, when you get out of the idea of just that they are a concept, when you actually understand their base emotion, the base emotion of emotion, that's actually quite weird. But when you understand that base emotion or that base feeling that you need to portray, then yeah, you will actually you will experience them in the best way possible, in the form of experiencing them that is completely in a state of being rather than in a state of ego. Because that's what you see, people experience emotions in a state of ego, and that's not the way to experience it. It's not the way to experience an emotion. Emotion is best if you're experiencing it in a state of being rather than in a state of ego. I know this because I've tried doing both. You know, I've tried experiencing emotion in a state of being and in a state of ego. When you can now, as I mentioned or alluded to earlier on in the chat, you can't get rid of an ego. You can't get rid of it. It's impossible. But from time to time, you can actually, and it's really weird experience, you can kind of shift the ego to the side a little bit and say, you know, I'm just going to shift you to the side just for a bit because I want to experience this in a purer form. We can do this in terms of like meditation, I suppose, but meditation is more used for actually connecting with the no self rather than, necessarily. I mean, that is it's not getting rid of your ego, but it is shifting your ego to the side. But generally, when you're in meditation, you're not experiencing emotion. But you can, in everyday existence, shift the ego to the side once you have highlighted it. You're not necessarily wanting to get rid of the ego, you're just shifting it to the side a little bit. And you can't do this forever at all. The ego just creeps back in. What happens, right? You shift the ego to the side, you're experiencing emotion, and you think, oh, this is nice, I'm just experiencing emotion to the level that it is just a state of being, the level of being, the level that I should be experiencing emotion to. And it's like, yeah, it's nice. And then what happens is someone talks to you or something happens, right? And then you start bloody shouting off and you're back in your ego again, you see, because you can't get rid of it. I've tried doing it. I tried for weeks. I tried 4 or 5 hours a day of contemplation, just literally just talking to myself. I'm not going to be afraid to say I talk to myself. You would know that anyway. But I just talking to myself for weeks and weeks, trying to get out of my own ego. And then you realise that actually you're standing in your own way trying to get out your own ego because you're the one who's trying to get out of your own ego. It's the most funny thing in the world because you are your ego. So getting out of it is impossible. It's like, oh God. But when you realise that's a good realisation, in terms of your break away from concepts, that's the best one. The realization that you can't get rid of your ego, that's the sweetest. One of the sweetest, I would have said. I know we shouldn't really rank realizations of or breaking through of concepts in terms of spirituality. I know it's not the dumb thing to rank which one's better and all that, but that was a good realization for me. Like realization of ego. I really thought, oh my God, I get it now. And that was a good one. But don't get me started on it because it took me weeks. Like, I'm no expert, it took me so long. Like, I was using intellect to try and break through the ego, and it just doesn't work that well. I mean, yes, it does work. Kind of finding a path through the ego with intellect, but you kind of have to just let go of the intellect at the end point. So you really try and attack the ego logically with intellect and science at the start, if you are that way inclined. And then you'll really try and get into it and you think, right, I can go down this route, I can try this thing, I can try and get out of the ego this way. And then what you get to, right at the end, you have to let go of the intellect and anything really, anything, you have to let go. And then you let go of it, and then you're like, yes, I've got there. In letting go of that kind of pursuit of trying to get rid of the ego, after you've tried to get rid of the ego for so long, you then get to a point of realization in which you can totally let go of your ego, even without letting go of your ego, because as soon as you let go of your ego, it ends up returning anyway. It's like it's like an elastic band, right? I've not got one with me, but you can stretch it and stretch it and stretch it, and that's what's happening with your ego. When you're trying to get out of your ego, you're pulling at this side of the band, and it just snaps you back straight away because you can't do it. So when you actually learn to let go of that elastic band, you're not pulling away from it. It becomes loose, and the ego maybe goes a little bit further away from you, but it's a natural kind of thing. But it always comes back. It's that elastic band is always a full circle. It's always part of you, that ego. But when you learn to let go of it, it's relaxed. Like the elastic band it's not necessarily just further away from you or anything, but it's relaxed. It's in a state of flow. And therefore you can just chill with the ego, like you don't have to have any more self-loathing about, oh well, what if I do this, or what if I do that, or what if I do the other, how will they react to me, or what will they think of me, because you don't care about the ego anymore. You're not living in that. You're just like, well, if I eat this terribly aggressively. If I get this big, you know, plate of macaroni cheese and eat it, like stuff my face with it and get it everywhere, it doesn't matter. You know, like in my ego, if I go back into my ego, that would stress me out, because I'd be like, oh my god, you know, what people are going to think, etc. But if I remove myself from my ego a little bit, you know, just that slight little bit, well, not remove myself from my ego, that's not really the right words, but actually let go of my ego in that moment, then you can do it without any sort of self-loathing about the way you're eating. Or if maybe it's not like food disorders that impacts you, maybe it's anxiety or depression, you let go of that ego. You know, I've not really experienced it too much with depression. In fact, I actually got a little bit of feeling down and feeling low when I was going through the experience of trying to let go of my ego, or trying to chase, you know, trying to rip down my ego, tear down my ego. But I've not really experienced it in depression, but certainly with anxiety it can help. It's not foolproof with anxiety. I've still yet to define a spiritual way to actually pacify anxiety completely, in terms of its physical manifestations as we know it in science, you know, in terms of panic attacks and stuff. But when I do, it'll be a good day, and I don't know whether I will or not, but again, it doesn't matter, because my anxiety is encapsulated within my ego, so I'll let go of my ego. You can kind of let go of some of the anxiety, but as I say, even if you do let go of the ego, the anxiety is encapsulated within, there is still some residual anxiety there, especially if you're in the middle of experiencing anxiety, if you're particularly anxious on a certain day. If you're not anxious on a particular day, and then you let go of your ego, maybe you do meditation, maybe you have a mystical experience, whatever it may be, if you do that on a particular day, when you're not anxious, then yes, the anxiety just melts away, like so easy. But yeah, I've not been able to master the actual, I suppose you would call it like a meditative technique, or a Zen technique of actually being able to let go in the moment of greatest anxiety. If you have a mind sharp enough to do that, that's when you can then let go of the anxiety completely, because you are accepting it 100%, because in the moment you are training yourself to have a still mind while you're experiencing the depths, the horriblest part of your anxiety, and then you don't need to have anxiety anymore, because there's nothing it can do to harm you, because your mind is still, whether you have bad anxiety or whether you have, you know, whether you've not got anxiety. So that's one way that I'm trying at the moment to kind of go down to get rid of some level of anxiety. But yeah, I mean, it will work. It's just it will take some training on my part to actually do that. But I'm just interested to go down that route and try and train myself a little bit with it. And if I can get to that point of realization with that, and actually something does actually work for me, then I can obviously help other people out with using that technique to help them with their anxiety. And of course, I don't know what studies have been done to show meditation is a positive practice to do, but I'm sure there are a lot of studies and stuff out there, maybe not just scientific, but I'm sure there's some. I mean, I don't know what other studies could be done, to be honest, but I'm sure there's some studies done out there that does prove it does have benefits, to maybe your well-being or whatever. I'm not sure, but I know that at the moment they're trying to do more studies scientifically with it, but I don't know whether there's that many results come out on it. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Now, I know I've not read through the chat. You'll have to forgive me. I completely went off on one. I can maybe read through a bit of it now, but I'm prone to rambling a bit more, so I don't know. I'll maybe do a bit. Ads, do you think that your anxiety might be worse if you didn't have some things? If you didn't have some insight into it though? If you didn't have some? Do you think that your anxiety might be... So you're saying it might be worse if I didn't have... oh my god, yeah. Like, back before I had any insight into any of these concepts, my anxiety was terrible. Like, you think this, like, I'm not saying you think this is bad, but if there's someone watching who thinks I'm a bit, like, anxious now, like pulling my jacket, or, you know, I'm putting my hand, like, around my sort of trousers here, around, like, you know, near my pocket and stuff, I'm doing this, I don't know whether you can see it on camera, but if you think that's bad, doing these little twitches, if you saw me like 3 years ago, I would have been like crunched over, pulling my hair, because I didn't have any clue into what my anxiety was, how it manifested itself. I didn't really have that, well, I kind of had a clue of my triggers and stuff, but I didn't really have much of a clue in terms of the psychology of it, in terms of the way in which it, you know, as I say, it manifests itself, or the way in which it kind of is brought out. I just didn't have a clue about why it was even happening to me. And now I understand that I kind of just accept it as being part of the flow of life. And that certain people are more, or certain, I kind of want to say egos, but certain people are more anxiety prone or whatever, you know. I mean, I think that in the ultimate realization, as I just alluded to, in the ultimate realization of my anxiety, of my acceptance of my anxiety, will then kind of dissipate a little bit, but it may also be a little bit of a trick. It may be a false idea, a false concept to actually believe in myself that I can get rid of my anxiety. I think it is a false. I think that it's similar to that of the ego or the emotion. Now, the thing that differs with anxiety is that it has true physical symptoms. You know, emotion and ego. Okay, you could measure emotion, you know, in brain waves and stuff like that. But with anxiety, it seems to be more physical than ego or emotion. So maybe there is a permanent way of getting rid of it. Then we're looking down the scientific route, of course. Well, maybe. I mean, it could be a spiritual way of getting rid of it, or a religious way of getting rid of it. But you know, I do think that actually maybe it isn't that. Maybe it is more like the ego, that the more you try and get rid of it, the further it comes on, you know, because you're actually actively, you know, you say to yourself, right, I need to get rid of my anxiety. So you know what? I'm going to go down to, you know, I'm going to get in the car, I'm going to go down to the gym, and I'm going to beat this thing, right? That's brilliant. And sometimes that can work for people, and it's worked for me in the past. But when you do that, you're automatically thinking to yourself, well, yeah, if you have, well, it depends on if you have self-loathing or not. But if you have self-loathing, what happens in your brain is like, when you get to the car, or when you get to go into that place, it's like talking to you. It's like saying, oh, actually, I don't know whether you can do this. I don't know whether you can do that. So pushing away from your anxiety in some circumstances can actually make you recede. But the problem is, if you just stay where you are, stay stood still in a metaphorical sense, if you just stay stood still with your anxiety, then it's either just going to stay the same or get worse anyway. So the only way to do it is push through it, but you can't call it pushing through it, because if you call pushing through your anxiety, that is a negative connotation that you've already put inside your brain, and then you'll be tricked into thinking that you can't do it because you're calling it, oh, I've got to push through this, you know, instead of saying, you know, I actually want to do these things. I actually want to go out there and live my life. So there's, again, that's you know, living either positively about it or negatively about it, and then just doing it. And then you've also got, that I covered a little bit, the actually removing positive and negative from anxiety and just doing it. That's what I've done on a few occasions. When I went to the dentist, I did that. I removed my positive and negative. I just went, and I you know, I did what I did there. I didn't end up getting a filling, because basically my anxiety completely bubbled over. But I did get in the chair. I got in the chair. I had a chat to him. He did a little bit of dental work on me and stuff. Not, you know, just like looking and checking up and stuff. But I could not have done that with me being positive or negative about it. I had to be in the no self, the no mind, whatever. I had to be in that transcendence of positive and negative. And doing such actually got me in the chair. If I was in positive or negative, Positive, yeah, it might have got me a bit further, or it might have just got me to the same place, might have got me a bit less, I'm not sure. Negative mindset, well, I wouldn't have even gone, you know, but, so it seems to me that you either have to be in a positive mindset with anxiety, or in the mindset of the no self, in terms of removing your ego, or letting go of your ego, or brushing your ego to the side. They're the two ways of trying to beat it, and I wouldn't even call it beating it, because you can't beat anxiety. I think that it is always present inside you. In terms of just scientifically, there's no one in the world who's not anxious. Scientifically, you have the hormones inside you to produce adrenaline, and that can produce anxiety and stuff, depending on how your anxiety manifests itself and stuff. But yeah, so you're going to have it, you know. So I don't like really using the word beating it. I like using the word accepting it. That's a good word. Anyway, I'll just go up the chat, and then I will sign off. I just feel a little bit bad about not reading anyone's comments, but you have to understand, when I talk about philosophy or anything like that, I just get off on one, and I have been holding that in, not talking about it on Thursday Talks for so long, because I don't, again, this is living in my ego again. My self-loathing of my ego feels as if I shouldn't be saying that stuff to you guys, because you guys come for the reselling, right? So, again, I can remove my ego, and then that self-loathing can kind of subside a little bit. But, you know, ultimately I have my ego, so, you know, that self-loathing is still going to be present to some extent. So, yeah. That's why I didn't really want to talk about it on here, but now I've kind of, you know, I've splurged it all out. Yeah, I want to go back through the chat and just look at a few of these things. I've already read that. That is why I always forgive no matter what people have done, as me holding a grudge only affects me, not them. Yes, very true, very true. Question, do men and women interpret love differently? That is interesting, Andrew. Do men and women interpret love differently? I think if we're talking on a scientific standpoint here, I'm guessing that there may be some slightly different variances on chemicals in the brain, or chemicals in the body in terms of men and women. Obviously, I'm not a scientist, so I don't know. I'm assuming, and that's a bad thing to do, really. But you know, it's possible that if there are different chemicals or different amounts of different chemicals, that they can interpret love slightly differently. Obviously, what is it, the female chemical, is it estrogen or something, or is that right? I don't know. But basically, like, something that makes, because obviously women generally, I'm stereotyping here, so I apologise, but generally women are a little bit more, you know, they like to love things, or a little bit softer, let's say. I know there's women out there who are as hard as nails and are gonna, you know, be like that. That's fine, that's brilliant. I'm not trying to stereotype, I'm just literally saying it for the purposes of kind of this, essentially. But they tend, you know, women tend to be a little bit more on that side. So if they are on that side, it could be argued that maybe they feel maybe an enhanced version of love, I'm not sure. Or maybe they just feel in it a little bit more heightened emotion, I'm not sure. Obviously, there's been studies done to show that about, I think it's like 1 in 7 people experience like heightened emotions, or like, you know, a feeling of, you know, yeah, basically just heightened emotions, essentially. I would say, I've not been tested, but I would say I am one of the 1 in 7 that have that. I'm really, like, so, I mean, oh my god, sometimes I watch TV shows, and, like, it might be something that I really like, and I'm just a mess, you know? I'm just like, oh god, no, I don't want to do. You know, I just get so, and at the end of movies and stuff, I mean, I'm just like, sometimes I can't watch the ends of stuff, because I'm that bad. So I would definitely say that maybe, I mean, I know that a lot of people do that anyway, but, I mean, to me, it feels very, very intense. So yeah, some lads see a fit woman and the chemicals kick in. Okay, I don't know what that's in reference to. You just described Jesus. Yeah, I read that out. That was pretty funny. Share, please. Yeah, that's okay. I did that. Ads is talking about love and different kinds. Yeah, it's interesting. He's a person, Andy, philosopher and mindfulness guru, I think. Who's that? I don't know who that is. Yogananda. Never heard of that guy. Love you too, Karen. Oh, that's nice. Should I ask what Yodananga is? Oh, God. That's attraction. Oh, what did Lonnie say that's attraction to? I want to know that now. Damn it. Afternoon all, what have I walked into? Yeah, I don't know, Andrew. It was just a really weird. Wow, I haven't watched haven't watched live in a while. New warehouse. Brilliant. Love is non-tangible collection of electro-cerebral responses mixed with biochemical reactions. Moving on, how's everyone's sales today? My sales have been really poor, actually. I'll just do a very quick bit on this and then we'll go. I'm pretty much quite up the chat now. Yeah, my sales have been pretty poor. Very up and down. I mean, I've been listing... Right, please tell me this. Why are my sales so bad? Because, well, I say they're so bad. They're not terribly bad. But... Like, why are they so up and down? I have been listing consistently. I have been listing every day for days and days on end now. I think I had one day off in, like, the last 13 days or something. And it's like, why are these so bad? And I've got a sale running. I've got promoted listings running. I've got bloody loads of things running. I've got multi-buy running as well, which I don't know whether that does that much to impact sales. But, you know, I've sent offers to watchers. Yeah, okay, I've had a little bit of success with that, so I can't really complain there. But come on, you know, I mean, switch me on or something, you know, if that's a thing. I don't know whether that's a thing. Oh. We call it love, but it is what we are in our natural spiritual state. We come from love. We are connected by it. I'm not talking about love as an emotion. I'm not talking about love as an... Yeah, it's interesting because it's hard. It's hard, you know. Ads, have you been listening to Elkhart Toll? No, I haven't, but I heard someone mentioned that on Instagram to me. I need to look into him. Most of my knowledge comes from Alan Watts. I'm a big fan of Alan Watts. I wish I could have met him, because, like, a lot of the things that he says, and I know so many people say this who watch him, you know, a lot of the things he says, just like, I can automatically just connect with, you know. So I watched a lot of Alan Watts. I listened to a bit of Carl Jung, who's not a philosopher, he's a psychologist. Obviously there's not that many recordings of him, but I'll watch other videos and stuff and I'll read a little bit into him, you know, and stuff. But I like him. I've watched Jim Rohn. I know that he's not a philosopher. Well, I suppose he's good at guiding people to their own philosophy. That's not what I was looking for a few months ago, but it's kind of now what I'm looking for. Well, kind of already achieved it actually, but you know, I watch a lot of Jim Rohn. I like what he has to say. I don't particularly like I don't particularly like the way he says it. I just feel like I don't know, maybe the way he communicates it sometimes I'm not the biggest fan of. Whereas Alan Watts to me is more, I don't know, he's like real, you know. Like I can see that there's, I mean, Jim Rohn is real. I don't know why I say that, but you know, it's like I just connect with Alan Watts more, and the whole like the smoking and the drinking and stuff that he did in his life, and you know, I think he had an affair and stuff as well, and it's like that's real. You know, I don't want to listen to a philosopher who's the perfect person. I don't want to listen to a philosopher who is a god, or who is coming across as someone who thinks they know it all, and who, you know, who's got the secret to life for you. Because I honestly believe any philosopher who tells you that they have the ultimate universal truth is lying to you. They do not have the ultimate universal truth. They may be able to say, they may be able to define life in terms of itself, or they may be able to define certain parts of life, or, you know, things like that. But any philosopher who says specifically, this is the exact truth. Like, Alan Watts talks a lot about the universe being you and you being the universe. However, if you watch enough of Alan Watts, that's not his point. He doesn't make the point of you are the exact universe and that's you. He makes the point of that is a very persuasive concept, but alongside that, he also makes the point in a few of his lectures the only way to really live is to define your own philosophy and to get rid of the concepts of human existence. And I mean, he made a great point and case on, well, I don't know whether it was a case, but he made a great point at least on using Buddhism as a psychotherapy. So I tried that for a little while. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to continue as a philosopher. Let's say I'd love to continue the work that he did, but I don't need to, because he did it all. He said exactly what needs to be said. If you watch enough of his lectures, you will learn everything you need to learn about life. Like, you don't need to learn anything more than what he says. You don't even need to learn about anything he says, really, because you're already living life. And if you're doing it in the correct way, it doesn't matter anyway. And the correct way isn't even the correct way. There's no correct way in doing it. It's just you do you. But, you know, like, if you listen to him enough, you just don't know. You just get there, you know. Like, with me, it took a while for me, my God, to actually understand all of the different things he was talking about and all the different, ways in which he wanted people to understand things that he had learned or he'd philosophized about. But yeah, I mean, as I say, I would have loved to continue on the work that he did, but now I've come to the realization, oh, right, I don't need to. And that is part of his kind of point, that you don't need to try and do all these things. Just let them happen. Just go along with it. So what I now do is, instead of me thinking, oh, well, I'm going to continue on his work, I take certain things of inspiration from him, and then I question them. And I say, right, well, how is that the truth? Like, I don't fully believe in his concept of the kind of, I don't know whether he created it or whether he got it from someone else, but I don't fully subscribe to his concept of the universal kind of thing, like the, like, I kind of sort of believe it in an agnostic way, but I don't fully subscribe to the idea that, a person on the street is you. And I am me and they are me. Like, I don't fully subscribe to that. I defined my own philosophy on it, or my own concept on it. And I've defined my own concept on emotion, or my own philosophy, sorry, on emotions and different things. And that's what he taught. That's his message. He's like, don't listen directly to what any religion has to say. Don't listen directly to what anyone has to say. Form your own conclusions on this, and essentially at the end of the day, what he was saying is live life. That's what it's, live life. That's his message, live life. But anyway, I'll go now, because it's been, God, it must be an hour and a half or something now. But yeah, so I'll very, very quickly look up. Hello, Ads, Lil and Alf. Hope all is well with you. Keep up the good work. I will do. It's been a bit of an odd episode today. So another one of Ads discussions comes full circle on itself. Yeah, I do that, don't I? Ads' purpose is to wear a different hat every day. Well, yeah, I mean, I'll try, but I don't know whether I'm going to do it. Yeah, but it's interesting. Oh, Jane Callum were in before, sorry. I wasn't doing much looking in the chat. How is going to the gym, Adam? Feeling better about it? Always makes me weirded out when people say Adam, because it's kind of like, and this is funny now because I can talk about it, it's like they are looking through the ego of Ads, you know, like that persona. And when people call me Adam, I'm like, oh God, no, I'm exposed, you know, but I don't mind being exposed anymore, because I'm like, well, don't matter, does it, you know? But the other fascinating thing that I want to learn about more is the alter ego. And I think I might have the alter ego in terms of bads, but again, the alter ego, you wouldn't be able to get rid of it if you did have one, if it is something that existed, you wouldn't be able to get rid of it anyway. But it's very interesting. But no, going to the gym is okay. I've not been since Tuesday. I've not got the car at the moment, so I can't really go. I mean, I could hop on the train and stuff. But yeah, I've not been since Tuesday. Tuesday was not the best session in the world. I didn't do that much. I'm still having trouble with my anxiety at the gym. I'm still having trouble with actually committing to it. Because my anxiety is specific, of course, like I've said many a time, to my body. My anxiety is specific to my vital organs, so I feel my vital organs more than other people, or my brain. Basically what happens is my brain makes me feel my vital organs more than other people. So it means, and this does happen to a lot of people with anxiety, it's not completely specific to me, but the problem is I can't really get high, really high heart rate in the gym, otherwise, because I'm in an unfamiliar environment at the gym, then that freaks me out and then sends me into an anxiety spiral. If I get a high heart rate when I'm at home, or when I'm, near home, or like round, on the streets or whatever, around my house or whatever, I'm not as panicky about it. So what it's about is trying to train myself to be very, very comfortable at the gym first off, and then start to really push myself with that high heart rate, and then I should be, fairly steady there. It's my third time going, so that was, it's okay. I always try and reward myself after going to the gym. Rewarding yourself for doing something hard in terms of your anxiety is a good way to go if you want to do that. I got a pink donut actually after the gym. It doesn't matter so much if you do something wrong or if you do something right in terms of you fail or you succeed or whatever you want to call it. It's important to treat yourself after a particularly hard experience, whatever the matter, whether you've done it or you haven't, you've succeeded or failed, because it gives like a positive feedback loop. Like, you start to feel some sort of like feeling of worthiness, and as someone with a lot of self-loathing, it's important for me to feel worthy even after an experience where I haven't particularly succeeded in, because that then reduces the self-loathing, over time. And the more and more confident you get doing something, and then you provide that treat, you then, it's kind of like Pavlov's dogs. Have you ever heard Pavlov's dogs, where he trained the dogs to respond to the dinner bell? So they would know that when the bell rang, they would be getting food, and it's a way of classically conditioning the dog, so they respond to a stimulus. So it's kind of like that. It's like, right, I'm saying that to myself. I'm classically conditioning myself. So I'm saying, right, look, I get that treat after I do this. So I'm going to do this. But it's not quite that, actually, because I know I've just said before, it's not quite that, because I'm not classically conditioning myself completely, because even if I don't do the activity, well, not necessarily if I don't do it, because I always end up doing the activity, but if I don't do it to like the fullest extent, I still get the treat, because I feel that's important in terms of my self-loathing. A dog doesn't feel self-loathing, so it doesn't need to get the treat every time, Well, I don't think a dog feels self-loathing. I've not done psychological studies into dogs, but I would imagine that they probably don't feel self-loathing. They may feel certain emotions. I don't know about that. I know that like dolphins feel emotions, and or a lot of scientific studies have kind of shown that. Obviously, there's studies in the 60s with Margaret and Peter, Peter the dolphin and Margaret, studies were done there, and then she actually sexually stimulated the dolphin, because I think there wasn't another dolphin in the pool or something with it, so Margaret actually basically did things to the dolphin, which was quite interesting. But when I read about that and stuff, that's very interesting, those kind of experiments. I don't know what they were called, but Peter actually, it revealed that actually dolphins have the capability, and I think they're the only animal on the planet other than humans who have the capability to commit suicide. So he basically suffocated himself to death by putting his blowhole top of the water, because what happened was he got taken away from Margaret because the site was shut down where we were doing these like, kind of fairly cool experiments actually. But what some people think, and it was on this documentary, I watched this years ago, so I don't even know how I remember this. This was like 7 years ago I watched this, but I can recite it so easily. But yeah, so they were doing some experiments. They injected the dolphins with LSD to see if they had any effects on them, so it was quite cool. But Peter, what some people think is Peter made a emotional connection to Margaret, and when they got taken away, he was in a horrible environment actually when he got taken away, in a very, very small tank, but he actually committed suicide, and as I say, put his blowhole at the top of the water and just didn't breathe, and so like sort of suffocated himself. Didn't like, yeah, I think that was it. Oh no, wait, no, maybe no, because dolphins are mammals, so he must have actually like just submerged himself, because he has to get air to breathe if he's a mammal, doesn't he? So maybe he submerged himself. I don't know quite how it works, but I know he committed suicide anyway. And some people believe it was because he wasn't with Margaret and that he had an emotional connection to her. Now, that kind of bit is, I mean, even the suicide bit is hard to prove, but I know a lot of people, I don't know whether it has been completely proven, but I think it might have been, I'm not sure, but maybe it wasn't actually, but the emotional connection to a dolphin to a human, that's very hard to prove. But I kind of like to believe it in a way, you know. There's something there. I like to believe that, because I do like to believe animals have emotion actually, but it's one of those, isn't it? It's one of those. I mean, certainly animals can, have suffering. I mean, we know, like, you subject any animal to, something horrific, they're gonna bloody scream and stuff. You're telling me that's not, like, people who believe they don't have suffering, you're telling me that's not suffering if they're, like, screaming and stuff? Come on, that's, I mean, they're a living, let's just look at this scientifically. They're a living organic organism. If you're a living organic organism like yourself and you cut your arm off, you're gonna be in pain. If a chicken gets its wing cut off while it's alive, it's gonna be in pain. Just by logic, it's a sentient being. It's an organism, That isn't, by the way, the reason I'm vegetarian. But yeah, it's nice being vegetarian and thinking that, yeah, you're not killing animals and stuff. But that's not the reason I'm vegetarian, unfortunately, for some people. I'm vegetarian because of health. Firstly, it started off as a religious thing, but now I'm not religious. So, I used to be, as I say, I was using Buddhism as a psychotherapy to relieve me of my self-loathing and stuff, and anxiety and all the rest of it. So I was a Buddhist for a short period of time, maybe 4 to 6 months. I practiced meditation and all the rest of it. But now I'm not religious, so but I've just kept the vegetarianism because it's a nice part of my philosophy that I enjoy. And I still do meditation, but I'm not Buddhist. I'm just not Buddhist, I sometimes still use Buddhist terminology like Naraka and Deva, heaven, hell, Buddhist hell and Buddhist heaven. There are tons of different Buddhist hells actually, but so I still use that terminology. I use Sanskrit. I can never pronounce it. Sanskrit, I think. I still use those kind of words every now and then, even though I'm not Buddhist or anything. But yeah. But if I was going to be religious again, I would be Buddhist. But I wouldn't be religious again, I don't think. But it's nice, religion, because it gives you, I like to say it's kind of, I know people won't maybe take favourably to this comment, but kind of like it in terms of it's a comfort blanket. It's something to believe in, that it's like, it just comforts you, but that's the reason I can't believe in it anymore, because I see through the concept of religion, and I just can't, I can't do it, because I don't need to believe in it. I don't need to believe in it, I'm happy with my own philosophy, I don't need to believe in a religion. But that's not to say believing in religion is wrong or anything. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that when you get to a point of realization, you don't need to believe in it. It's not something you need to do anymore. But it takes a long time to actually realize that. And again, there's this weird distinction between understanding and realization. Understanding, I do not believe, is realization. There's understanding something, like in terms of the knowledge of having understanding on it, but then there's realization, which is like almost an instantaneous moment of, oh my god, that's what it is. It's like that eureka moment. That's realization. Understanding something. You can understand something, I believe, without realizing it. That's what I'm trying to say. And I know it's kind of hard to balance that in your mind, in terms of kind of a bit of a contradiction, but I do believe they are kind of slightly variants on each other, slightly different things. But yeah, anyway, leave it there. A bit of a crazy one today. If you enjoyed any of my ramblings and you're still watching either now or after the stream, please do give it a like. Throw a comment down below if you have any ideas, thoughts, theories on this stuff. And yeah, I will see you in the next one. As I say, it's been a long one, this one, so I apologise. But yeah, I will see you very soon in the next one. I'll try and get a defined reselling topic for next time, and then we'll see if we can actually do a few more reselling questions. But yeah, I'll leave it there, guys, and I will see you in the next one. So I'll see you very soon.